Right. 29 March 2022, and I'm broadcasting here from Harare as usual. And today we're looking at three newspapers. That is the Herald, the H Metro, and the Daily News. Those are the three newspapers that we're going to be looking at. Very, very important stories in today's newspaper. Specifically, I want to start with the Herald. The Herald of today is leading with the story, raw material export is detrimental to growth. So this story is big, but this is not the big story I want to focus on here today. The biggest story here is figures don't lie. Analysts say ZANU-PF is going to win in 2023. And this story is saying that ZANU-PF, the party in these past elections, they showed that they got more numbers than CCC. And it says they just ended by-elections held on Saturday, which most contested seats in urban areas saw ZANU-PF successfully defending 7 seats. It won in 2018 and winning an extra 2 with 128,399 votes in total, while the opposition CCC retained 19 seats but lost 2, from which its predecessor won in 2018 and only just edged ZANU-PF with 129,799 votes. So what they're saying here is that ZANU-PF got the same number of votes for 9 seats compared to CCC for their 19 seats. So ZANU-PF won the popular vote. In short, that's what they're saying. Then there's a very, very important story here. And this story is with regards to Zimra. Zimra was taken to court by Tafadzwa Musarara. And Tafadzwa Musarara bought a Mercedes-Benz from a dealer here in Harare who did not pay duty. And his Benz was confiscated by Zimra. So the High Court has struck down sections of the Customs and Excise Acts as unconstitutional, although the Constitutional Court still has to confirm this judgment. This means before Zimra takes your car or does make any decisions, you must be allowed to make representations. This is very, very important. People have been losing a lot of their goods from Zimra after they are said to have imported these goods without going through the process. And you remember what happened to people like Ginimbi who had their cars confiscated. And this is a big issue. This is a very, very big ruling. Now let's go to Merim Baiwa, D-Day for Merim Baiwa. The verdict is scheduled for today for Merim Baiwa on a charge of breaching the Marriage Act by allegedly misrepresenting that her then husband, Vice President Constituent Chiwenga, consented to solemnize their marriage under the act during the time was hospitalized. So this ruling is coming out today. We will know if Merim Baiwa is guilty or not. Then in terms of adverts, the Old Mutual is paying dividends. And here it says, notice is hereby given that on 10 March 2022, Old Mutual Investment Group Zimbabwe, the fund manager for Old Mutual ZEC Top 10 Exchange Traded Funds, declared dividend number 2 of all Tanganda shares received by the fund in respect of funds holding in Miko's holdings. So there is dividends there. If you're a holder of Old Mutual share, you must go to their website and find out more information. Then Kwayeza, the newspaper called Kwayeza, is now inside the Herald. So if you look in here, you will see that Kwayeza is now part of the Herald. It is in here that you can read the Kwayeza. It's now a small piece instead of a whole newspaper. And then obviously you can read the rest of the stories here in the Herald. The Herald is the biggest newspaper here in Harare. It costs 110 bonds, $1, and it costs $1.15, and it costs R20. So I had a struggle getting this newspaper because I didn't have change. There's a big shortage of change in Harare. You cannot get change for most things. So if you buy something, you most likely have to settle for going away without your change, or settle for some little thing to cover the money that you owed. Now let's go to H Metro. H Metro is leading with a story called Uncensored. This story is about Passion Java. He had an interview and he spoke about Ginimbi, Se Wicknell, Nash, Se Colors, Tatelishas, and Mighty T. Very, very interesting story. He says here, Ginimbi was my guy. I always talk with his family and I pass my condolences. Of course, I went to the funeral at Doves, but Kumba, I saw that people running over pins were due to their faces. Face. So he's saying he could not get into the funeral of Ginimbi. Explained why. My Titi, I was the rat, and Iwo Kuvavaita Kitsi. She was Tom and I was Jerry. My Titi is a very good person. People don't understand her. You always know Kutamba kwa Tom and Jerry. She knows Zoitika Pakupedzisira. So he's talking about my Titi here. Then say Wickno, you remember say Wickno, he supported the deportation or the putting on sanctions of Java. So he says here, Mufesi Wangu, Wickno has money. I only asked that, how many minutes does it take to put on a gin? It was a question, but some took it like beef. He is my friend. There was a time when people like that, he posted about me. We talk, and it's now 2 years, I have his number. So he last talked to Java, to Wickno. Java last talked to Wickno 2 years ago. That's what he's saying here. Then I want to look at a robbery that took place in Bulawayo. A gang broke into Lobel's Biscuits, Bulawayo, and made off with 16 million rands and almost 180,000 US dollars. The robberies have started. Why is Lobel's keeping 16 million rands cash on their premises? Why are they keeping US $80,000 on their premises? These are some of the things that are causing all these robberies. Large amounts of cash are being kept at premises. Now let's go to a very important story here. Blinded woman sues optician for US 79,000. A Harare woman is claiming US 79,000 damages from an optician whose prescription allegedly resulted in her suffering permanent loss of vision. So Mary Mchingura has dragged Neil Mtongwazi and Pearl's opticians to court. In her court papers, Mchingura claimed that she approached Pearl's opticians after experiencing itching in her eyes. Mtongwazi prescribed her Pyramon eye drops on January 2018. After applying the eye drops, Mchungura says she developed complication on the right eye 7 days later. A specialist then told her that eye drops had caused holes in her eyes. Very, very sad story. This is Mary Mchungura. She has lost her eyesight and she's suing these guys for 78,000. And then here we've got a very, very big advert. This is the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development. This is all the agricultural colleges in Zimbabwe. That is Esgodini, Kushinga Pikelela, Gwevi Agricultural College, Mazowe Veteran College, Rio Tindo Agricultural College, Mlezu College, Chibero College, Shamba Agricultural College. So these are all advertising for people who want to come and study. So if you've got a child who wants to study, you can take them to the H Metro newspaper. This is the newspaper with that advert. They can go in there and watch and read this information of which college they can go into. Then in sports, we've got Wonder Wheel. This guy called William Manondo, he has scored 8 goals since the beginning of the season. And there is a buzz in the Caps United camp, and free scoring striker William Manondo is responsible for the spring in their steps. The forward, who arrived at the Green Machine from Harare City this season, has started the Castle Lager Premiership campaign with a bang. He scored his 8th goal of the season in his first 9 matches for his new employers in their dramatic 3-2 win over a battling Herentians at the National Sports Stadium. So this is H Metro, very, very interesting newspaper. It's got a lot of things in here that you can find useful. And then obviously the newspaper is costing, let me tell you the price here, it's costing US $1 or R15, or in dollars, it's 100 bond. That is how much it is costing. Now let's go to the last newspaper. I could not get Newsday. It was not yet there when I arrived. Opposition seeks vital national talks. So what this newspaper is saying is that Nelson Chamisa and Douglas Monzora are all looking for dialogue with President Idi Mnangagwa. And I'm going to go into detail on this story during the week. I want to look at the different approaches to dialogue and whether it makes sense for Douglas Monzora to look for dialogue with President Mnangagwa after his appalling performance in the past by-elections. I think Douglas Monzora is out of politics and he needs to understand that. So I don't know why Monzora is looking for dialogue. Then we've got Sakupanya is the new AAG president. There's been an appointment here of Sakupanya. Economic Empowerment Group, the Affirmative Action Group, has appointed Harare businessman Pedzisai Scott Sakupanya as its new president with immediate effect. So Sakupanya, the founder of Better Brains Jewelry, one of the country's leading gold buyers, took over the presidency from Mike Chimombe, who was at the helm of AAG since April 2021. So this was announced by Philip Chiangwa, who is the patron and founder. So he's the founder and chairman of the AAG. So Chiangwa cannot be fired from AAG. He's like a godfather on there, and he makes all the appointments. He fires as he wills. So Sakupanya, a very, very prominent business person. He is probably one of the richest people here, I think, from what I've heard. If you look at his company, it's massive. He's got security companies, he's got mining companies. I think he's also in construction. So very interesting. And here what he says is that Chimombe has been struggling to support the group due to lack of adequate funds. We have decided to dismiss him from the presidium because he was no longer capable of supporting the group, Chiangwa said. So very interesting. I don't know what happened to the other guys, Passion Java, who was also a vice president. Look, who understand better what has happened there. Appointments are being made. And then another interesting story here, Macheso's ex-members are flocking back. So all the former Macheso members who had left are coming back to the band. That is the story that is in this newspaper. They've got a lot of international news here. Somizi, Bohami's daughter. Somizi's daughter is a graduate. Caspar Nyovest, Caspar Nyovest reveals why he relates to Will Smith's Oscar moment. Will Smith smacked Chris Rock yesterday. That is here in this newspaper. I don't know who is the target for this newspaper, the Daily News. And they have a lot of similar stories to the Herald. If you look at this newspaper, they have a lot of stories here that are similar to the stories in the Herald. I don't know if these guys share journalists or if they're just a similar way of thinking. And then obviously, the story of Mary Mbaewa is in all newspapers. Every newspaper is leading that story. The Lobos robbery is also in this story. And obviously, the dialogue story is very big. Chamisa calling for dialogue yesterday. But as I said, we're going to go into detail. What is that Chamisa wants from President Mnangagwa? And what is it that Douglas Monzora wants from President Mnangagwa? These guys, they have got a peculiar way of thinking. And I want to go into it. They want to talk to President Mnangagwa, who is in ZANU-PF, but they don't want to talk to each other. And they're in the opposition. Very, very strange. I cannot believe the behavior of these two political parties when it comes to dialogue. Then there's another very interesting story that I want to end with. 3 people were arrested for election offenses during the past week. 1 person, 2 people voted with someone else's ID. So if you look at Elizabeth Shinyoka, who is 37, she voted with her sister, Zvanyanza Chinyoka's ID. And then when Zvanyanza tried to go and vote, she found out that she had already voted. Then they found out her sister, Elizabeth Chinyoka, is the one who had voted. And then there's also another guy here, Zvikomborero Mupanguri, who used someone else's identity document to vote. And then when they were asked by police that you are using the wrong ID, they then said, no, it's me, got arrested on the scene. And then there's Tendai Atuogonye, who was arrested in Mavuku for chewing a ballot paper. He went into the ballot box, and instead of putting the ballot after marking it back into the ballot box, he took it with him. I don't know why he was taking it with him. And then when they found out that he had done that, and they challenged him, he then took that ballot paper and chewed it. These are the stories that are here in these 3 newspapers. I could not get news there, as I said, because it had not arrived there. And this is, of these 3 papers, today's paper, this is the paper to buy if you've got limited funds. If you buy this newspaper, you got more value because it's got a lot of adverts, it's got a lot of stories, and it's exactly $1. I don't know how you can buy a newspaper for $1.15 with so much of a problem in getting change. How do you price your paper at $1.15? Very, very interesting way of thinking. But if you want value, buy this newspaper here. It's the one that has got the most stories, the H Metro. It's got the most stories, it's got the right price, although the Herald has more adverts. Zimbabwean newspapers are very, very interesting, but people are struggling to buy them because of change. I've realized that change is the issue here. They need to find a way of making cash available for small transactions. Everywhere I go, I struggle to buy because of this issue of change. And you can swipe by the newspapers, by the guys who are at who sell newspapers. The swiping machines are not commonly available like in South Africa. In South Africa, everyone has got a machine to swipe, any small business, but they don't have it here. So that is the problem that we have. So I'm going to be traveling today. I'm going to Zimbabwe North, to the extreme north of Zimbabwe, and then I'll be back here in Harare later on during the week. Then I'll go to the Eastern Highlands. A lot happening in this country, and business is booming. If you are already in business here, in the food industry, in the tourism industry, in the transport industry, in the construction industry, if you're selling things. I went to Masasa. It's stunning what's happening there. Every little piece of space is taken. Someone is doing something. Someone is selling something. People here, it's a buzz. I'm going to share with you pictures of the CBD and pictures of out of town. There is a lot of activity taking place in this economy, and people who live in other countries, they will not understand it because it's not like another country. Zimbabwe is a totally unique economy that you cannot compare with another economy. So that is it for today. I'm going to have to leave. I think I've given you enough value. Enjoy the rest of the day, and then I'll be back later on in the evening if I get an opportunity. But if I don't, I'll be back in the morning. Let's look at the papers in other cities. What other cities, what kind of newspapers they have, what kind of stories that they have. Because tomorrow I won't be here. Probably I'll be very late. And then I'll share it with you later on midday. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you again.